Thank you very much indeed. Good afternoon, everybody. Now, as was rightly said, I'm not an AI expert, so you'll be pleased to know that I'm not even going to attempt to talk about AI. But there are two elements to it, and I think that's the thing. Because if we didn't have HI, human intelligence, we wouldn't have AI. So it's looking at how do we marry the two, and I think I was talking to James earlier. It's about how do you build on both of those? Because some of the concerns when you talk to people is about the fear of dumbing down our thought processes. If we become anything done to an extreme becomes unhealthy, anything. So it's about how do we manage, measure, and gauge those things. But how do we do it with people who want to do it versus having to beat them to do it? And the reason I say that is because can anybody in this room juggle 3 balls? You can juggle 3 balls. Okay, fantastic. Do you find it quite easy? No. Difficult, okay. But a bit of practice, you can do the 3 balls, yeah? Anything is easy when you know how. Anything is easy when you know how. I don't know where my presentation is. It's right there. Thank you. Anything is easy when you know how. And that's part of the thing with change, because people say, oh yeah, you'll be okay. Well, if you've been working on something for 2 years and then you're implementing it, of course, you're much more comfortable than somebody seeing it for the first time. And what do we do when we have change? We fear it. But change is happening all of the time. That's one thing that's constant in this world is change. But it's not just change, it's now the speed of change, the speed that everything is going at. And trying to keep ahead of that is not easy. It takes time, but it also takes patience as well. And we say, yeah, but I haven't got time because time is money. But it's finding the way. And I think some of the, earlier on, people were saying about things, it's not just for the sake of doing it. It's not, I think Dan said it, about the shiny things on the shelf, the next new shiny thing. Okay? The next new, it's about doing it with the people and saying, okay, what's this all about? But before we go any further, and I think the important part of all the work is doing this research, understanding where the business is at the moment before we start to implement new things. So I want to do something with you. I need some audience participation, okay? And then automatically some people go, I'm not getting involved. I'm coming to listen to somebody. I'm not going to do anything. Why should I do that? I've heard of this before anyway. I already know that, so why do I need to do this? But I need some audience participation. I'm going to put a QR code up, and if my technology works, you're going to need your phone. Because I want to find out the first word that comes into your head. How are you feeling right now? Bearing in mind that lunch is in 28 minutes. Lunch is in 28 minutes. How are you feeling right now? I'm hoping that will populate it. If it doesn't, I'm going to blame AI and we can move on. But it's just getting a temperature check to see how people are feeling. Hungry, excited, enthusiastic, tired, engaged, curious. Surprising that, hungry just before lunch, isn't it? The bigger the word, the more people have put it. So it's intrigued, curious, interested. Okay. Some good stuff. But think about the question, how are people feeling in organisations? If they're big or small, how are people feeling if they don't know what AI can do? How are they feeling? They're probably feeling a little bit apprehensive. And because we know that the media always focuses on the positives of anything, yeah, they never talk about all the downside of anything. Everybody's going, yeah, great, AI is going to really make me feel good in what I do. So we've got to look at that. We've really got to be aware of how the human side of what we're doing, and it was again, I think Lily was talking about that, the importance of the human side as well. Has anybody, when it's overwhelmed? Is that you, Dan, because of the football or not? Okay, thank you. So if we look at that, it's about dealing with this change. And there's a quote that I love about how we have to deal with change. And I'll go back on that because my father-in-law, bless him, who's no longer with us, but I remember when my mother-in-law wanted her first mobile phone. And it's a brilliant line. He said, never used to need a mobile phone. I don't know why we need one now. Okay, so that was a few years back. And I said, but we used to live in caves, but we live in a house now. So the whole point is, some people will always find, well, we don't need that because we've always got all right before, because that's part of the fear of change. What I don't know. So if I just move to this quote, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. AI is not going to go away, okay? In the same way that retailers had to adopt and adapt to online and offline, O+O. Why? Because the internet was not going to go away. So people had to find different ways to do business. So we can either go, I ain't going to do it, and it will never work, or how can I find a way to make it work in my reality? In my reality, how can I find to do what I need it to do? So this is where I'd like you to think about when you first came into this room, okay? When you first came into this room, the first part of our brain that's kicking in is that brainstem. Do I feel safe? Okay? Do I feel safe? We don't go, oh, do I feel safe? It's an automatic, subconscious thing that we walk in. And when we get to that stage, we then think, okay, I feel safe. Do I know anybody? The limbic system, can I connect with somebody that I know? How am I going to be connected with somebody? I don't mean, am I loved? We're not talking about hugging and kissing everybody as we walk through the door, but it helps, doesn't it, Phil? Thank you. And then from there, once I feel safe, once I feel connected, I'm more likely to learn. I'm more open to learning, okay? Now, when I'm like that, that's exactly what happens when we're thinking about, we're going to implement AI in our organisation now. We're going to really ramp that up because we need to get ahead of the game, okay? What's the first thing people start thinking? Do I feel safe? And if they don't feel safe, what they look to do is connect with the other people that don't feel safe, and then they start to try and develop strategies for it not to work in the nicest possible way. They're the ones that become very, very, what I say, passive resistant, because they'll look for different ways for it not to work. Not overtly, but they're almost sometimes the little snipers, and they sabotage things because, see, I knew it wouldn't work. So we're looking at that. So we're looking at how do we feel in that place? So which part of the brain? And organisations have to concentrate on three things, and you'll notice 3 different coloured juggling balls, which my volunteer did say he would love to come up because it's being videoed. Is that right? Well, it's being videoed, so he did say he'd love to come up on stage and demonstrate to the room just how good he is at demonstrating. He didn't know he was going to do that until he volunteered. So what we have to look at is, I don't know what's happened there, but if we look at 3 things: purpose, performance, and people. Okay? Performance can come and go. It is affected by so many different aspects. We know performance happens. It goes up and sometimes it goes down. People can come and go for various reasons. They could be with an organisation for a long time, a short period of time. But what is it they bring and what do they add? But again, they come and go. But when we lose purpose, when we lose our sense of purpose, we have nothing. So from an organisational point of view, but also from an individual point of view as well. What's our purpose? I don't just mean going to work, earning a salary and going home. It's what is it we're doing? Why are organisations, good organisations, in the right way, introducing AI systems to make things better? Not just to get rid of people, it's making things and improving things. But all we hear, as I say, from the media and the negativity from the media is they're doing it just to get rid of people. Okay, but we know that the job world is changing. So that's the big thing. Okay, how do I adapt? How do I stay current in the situation that I'm faced with now? So we have to make sure that we keep a hold of our purpose. We keep a hold of it. Why are we doing what we're doing? And then the people, to make sure, and I'm coming back to the point that Lily made, is when we're training and helping these people, is it just go and have a look at a tutorial online and that will teach you? Because we know we don't all learn like that. I was a slow learner, okay, and I'll give you a very clear example of what I mean by slow learner. I left school without any qualifications, okay, a long, long time ago. I graduated with a master's degree in applied positive psychology at the age of 60. So I was a slow learner, but it doesn't mean you can't. But what I discovered through a long period of all those years was that I was giving myself an excuse why I couldn't do something. I haven't got the time. I haven't got this. I can't do that. But what I found was, when I really found my purpose that I can do, I actually went off and did a 2-year part-time master's. So I got there because I wanted to do it. When you want to do something, it's incredible what you can achieve. Yeah? When you need to do something, yeah, I need to do that. But when you want to do it, when you really feel it, because all of those things impact on performance. So when you've got people that want to adopt and want to learn and feel safe to make mistakes, okay, and the organisation supports that, it isn't just done, I believe, on an online tutorial. It's about talking to people, spending time with people. Everybody in this room, it's the human-to-human piece that we have to make sure we maintain. Because some of you, I'm sure many of you would have seen this before, but look at how we learn. Look at the process that we go through. Okay? It starts off with, I don't know what I don't know. So I'll give you an example. My grandson, who's 7 months old, he doesn't know that he doesn't know how to drive a car. Okay? As he gets older, he'll realise that he does know that he doesn't know how to drive a car. So he becomes more aware. Okay? Then he'll have his lessons and everything else, hopefully, and he'll get his driving licence. And then in about 25 years' time, he'll be driving around with one hand on the steering wheel, listening to his music. Or it will probably be auto drive without any drivers anyway. And we'll just be floating around in the ether somewhere. So that whole learning process that we go through. But this is the point where we have to look at the ouch point. As children, we don't care. But as adults, when we don't know, when we know that we don't know and we become more aware, that's when we get uncomfortable. Because we feel we should know. And when you're working with people, some people adopt and understand things much quicker. You think, maybe I should know it. Why don't I know that? Why do they know that? And that's when we need to make sure that we've got everybody on board. You know, you hear all these lovely things. You all got to be rowing in the same direction. All got to be. We learn at different speeds. We're good at different things. So one of the things that I got from positive psychology, amongst other things, is the fact that you build on what's strong, not fix what's wrong. And listening to Dan talking earlier today and Rob, it's about building what's strong, not fixing what's wrong. Because by definition, the rest comes up. But traditionally, what we tend to look at is all the things that are broken. Now, has anybody got a pet dog? Yeah? Can you juggle? So my juggler's got a pet dog. So can you juggle your dogs? No. Okay. So you have a pet dog. And the reason I talk about this is because I think it's so important. If you're training a dog, yeah, do you train the dog by beating it or ridiculing it or making it feel awkward and uncomfortable? No. You train the dog by praise. And when it does something well, you build what's strong. You do it again. Why do we stop doing that with humans when we get into work, into the workspace? Because often, when I say to managers, tell me about your team. Well, she doesn't do this, she doesn't do that, he doesn't do that, he's not very good. No, tell me about the team. Because we have, in many cases, a default set to negativity. So it's looking at, okay, what are the things that are strong and how do we build on those? And because of the challenge of change, who's ever been told in this room that you need to come out of your comfort zone? You need to get out of your comfort zone. Yeah? Or you may have even said it to somebody, come on, you need to get out, you're too comfortable, get out of your comfort zone. Can I just ask, why would anybody in their right mind want to leave something that's comfortable? It's, by definition, it's comfortable, it feels nice. I sit with people I feel comfortable with. Why do I want to go anywhere? Well, the thing is, the comfort zone's great, but what about if you could expand it? What about if you could expand your comfort zone? Now that's better. You've got even more chairs to sit on, yeah? As opposed to just the two you had before. You've got a bigger circle around you. But what stops us, and that's the important, what stops us is the fear zone. That's the piece that keeps us in there. The fear of change, the fear of getting it wrong, the fear of not knowing, the fear of what's happening next. Well, we won't tell them until we're ready to go live with it. Yeah, they'll be okay with that. Oh, they're not okay with it. Why that? What's that then? Yeah, but we've got some. Everybody's spoken really positively about it. Can you be positive about this? Yes, I'll be positive about it. I will share this with you. I think it's very relevant. I did a session last year in the US, and I started the session with how you're feeling right now. And the organisation that I was working with are actually going through a massive change. And there were people had been redundant, and there's job change, everything else. So I started with how you're feeling. And people put up exactly how they were feeling. Frightened, nervous, undervalued, and everything else. And do you know the biggest shock for me wasn't that? It was when somebody from the senior leadership team came up and said, can we have a copy of that slide? Because we didn't know they were feeling like that. That was, for me, that was the real, and it was a 2-day event. So on the second day, they said, we won't start with one of your Mentimeters. We'll do it our way. Okay. I have to bow down to the... So the person stepped up and he said, right, put your hand up if you're happy. So everybody in the room put their hand up. And he went, see, told you. Because we're just papering over cracks then. If we can't accept that people might be fearful, people might be struggling, people need help, people need support from their colleagues, then if we think, well, it's okay because I know how to do it, and it's good for the business, and it's good for the, we can save a lot of money, we've got to think about that human side, because if we forget that, we're going to forget everything. But, like I say, outside of there is that growth zone. That growth zone is the expanded comfort zone. So that then I've got an even wider audience. I've got a bigger network of knowledge and understanding. Or we can just stay in the old comfort zone, which after a while becomes boring. Because after a while you go, do you know what, these slippers have been so comfortable, but do you know I need a change? So I'll get rid of those. Then you've got to go through that process to get them comfortable again and wear them in. But this is what we're doing. And this is how we help each other. That's the importance of helping each other. Because the more we help each other, the more we help ourselves. And one of the things that I'm working on with a French colleague, which again I think the reference is drawn to about the English and the French. I've been working with my French colleague for many, many years, which always travels in a strange way around the world because people aren't used to seeing the English and the French collaborating on much at all. But we have worked very closely together for many years. And working on using from the positive psychology, we're talking about the MORSE philosophy. The MORSE philosophy is helping yourself to help others. Helping yourself to help others. And it's talking, I'll share sort of the elements of MORSE in a moment, but it's talking about how, and the example that I'm sure you've all heard, and is when you're in an aeroplane and you have your safety briefing, they tell you to put your mask on first before helping others. Why? Because if you're not in the good space, you can't help anybody else. So back to some of the people in the leadership teams that you have to deal with. Are they comfortable with all the changes? Or are they just being, yeah, I'm happy? Are they back to that? Yeah, I'm going to say what I'm expected to say. Or can I feel safe enough to discuss it with people and say, do you know what? I'm not quite there yet. I don't know how it's going to work for me. I don't know how it's going to... So to be vulnerable and say, actually, I need some help with this as well. Not just, yeah, come on, let's get it all rolled out. There is nothing wrong in saying, do you know what? I don't know. Because again, I was talking to James earlier on. The world is full of knowledge. Yeah, do you agree? There's so much knowledge. But what about the understanding? The understanding and application. Yeah? I know about a car engine. I don't understand how it all comes apart and puts back together and everything else. That needs an expert. So there's lots of experts out there. But you say, okay, what do you mean by that? How does that going to work? I'm not sure, but I've heard it from somebody else. They were very positive about the whole thing. But not just the knowledge, but the true understanding, but also putting it in a language that the layman can understand, the layperson can understand. Because we want the people to be, oh, this has helped me. What we don't want is people looking for all the things that's wrong. Oh, this won't work. Yeah, that doesn't. I knew that wasn't going to happen. So if we look at the MORSE code, and I'll share those points with you briefly. The first one is, and it's a word that's been overused, but it's probably a word that's being overused like AI in many instances. Yeah? AI this, AI that. Oh, yeah, AI'd it? Yeah. It becomes a whole new language. But it's one for me that is so paramount to the whole thing of dealing with change is mindset. Okay? Now, we have to be very careful when we start talking about mindset, because there's some people like to put people in clubs. You've got a growth mindset, but you've got a fixed mindset. So you're not in my club, but you are. Thank you very much. Well done. Yeah? It's not about that. All of us in this room have a fixed mindset about some things and growth mindsets about other things. It could be a restaurant. We might have a fixed mindset about a particular restaurant. I'm never going to go there. The food, when I went there 28 years ago, was terrible. Yeah? Salespeople do it all the time. You go, are we going to go and see that customer? No. 10 years ago, they stopped buying from us. 10 years, a lot changes. Maybe if you had adopted a growth mindset, you can go through the door, there might be a change possible. So that it starts the mindset. I like to think I've got a growth mindset, but I know I've also got a fixed mindset on things. That was what stopped me from getting my education. Until somebody supported me to say, you can do it. So suddenly, with a growth mindset about the education, I found a way to do it. But I was using the fixed mindset to justify why I couldn't do something. I can't do that. I haven't got the time. I haven't got the money. Too expensive. Can't do it. So the next thing is about optimism. Big difference between optimism and pessimism. There is also something that's critically important, that's realism. So sometimes people get so optimistic, and you know what I said earlier? So optimistic, anything done to an extreme becomes unhealthy. Yeah, this is going to work, this is going to be fantastic. We've spent millions on this, it's got to work. Yeah, but have we got all the right legislation? Have we got it all protected? Are we can make sure we're not going to... Yeah, that'll be fine, there'll be somebody can deal with that. Don't have to worry about that. You're over-optimistic, and then suddenly it bites you in the bottom. So there's the realism as well, but understanding about that. And the resilience, the ability, and this is where, for me, often people talk about in resilience, it's the ability to bounce back. There's a gentleman that started off this session this morning, and I don't know where he is now, but Mr. Boyles, where's Dan Boyles? Dan is a classic example of resilience and bouncing forward. I talk about resilience and bouncing forward. Okay, I've had something that stopped me, but how do I go forward from that? Another example is Malala, the young lady that lost the youngest winner of the Nobel Peace Prize. Her resilience is incredible because she could have gone, I've been shot by the Taliban, I can't do anything. She goes on to become the youngest winner of the Nobel Peace Prize. Why? Because she bounced forward. What else could she do? Or, we can't do that. Let's go back to how we used to do it. That's why I worry about bouncing backwards. It's about bouncing forward. So the strengths, the individual strengths that we all have. Okay, we all have these different character strengths. There's lots of different things that we have. And what I loved when I saw that how we're feeling, curious, intrigued, the strength of curiosity can never be underestimated. We wouldn't have the breakthroughs we have today if people weren't curious. When things don't work and you go, but how could I make it work? Who could I speak to help me? What could I do? That's when real curiosity comes in. So if we do nothing else, it's to remain curious. It's almost what I'd like to be when we go away from here today is, okay, asking yourself, what could I do differently? Who could I speak to? What could I change when I go back? Maybe I don't need to change anything, but maybe I could help somebody else change something. But be curious, asking those questions all of the time. And then the E from MORSE is empathy. Understanding and having a feel for how somebody else might be feeling through this change process. There is nothing worse saying, you'll be all right. You'll be okay. Don't worry about it. Yeah? Don't worry about it. You'll be fine. That'll be, it's new, I know, but you'll soon get to grips with it. Understand how people might be feeling. Having that understanding helps them to feel safe, and when we're safe, we learn more. It's a proven psychological fact. If you feel safe and you're having fun, you're more likely to learn more. And the reason I think about some of your favourite teachers at school, okay? Not the government-approved schools with bars on the window, but schools where you enjoyed your subjects, your topics, yeah? They probably were teachers where you had a laugh with them and you enjoyed it and you felt you could ask questions. My worst subject was mathematics. Why? Because I could still see that teacher now. Him saying, just write it down. But I'm trying to understand, just write it down, be quiet, write the answer down. So I had no understanding. When I had knowledge, he gave me knowledge, but I didn't understand how to apply it. So with the Morse code, what we're looking at is talking about fostering resilience, engagement and collaboration, because I've seen the word collaboration a few times from Savas as well, the importance of collaboration. People will only collaborate if they feel safe. People will only collaborate if there is high levels of trust and transparency. People will not collaborate if they haven't got a clue what the hell's going on. So transparency, which then comes back to what we're saying about leadership, is about vulnerability. Because maybe we don't know all the answers. But hey, let's put it out there. At least we can have a conversation around it. So just going to wrap up very quickly. What does it build? Mindset. We're talking about improving focus and decision-making and accountability. Accountability. You need to be accountable for your actions. Yeah, okay. If I've got the right mindset, I'm more likely to go, yeah, do you know what? I got it wrong there, but this is what I can do to put it right. As opposed to, well, it's not my fault. I spoke to somebody in that department and they didn't do what they're supposed to have done. Because it's very easy to blame somebody else. Because when was the last time we looked at ourselves and say, do you know what? I got it wrong. You don't have to stand in stage and do it, but you can, especially when they're juggling. From the optimism, clearly it drives motivation. And it's that thinking of, okay, how can I make it work? I'm optimistic that this is going to be great. How can I make it work? Links into the mindset. And so when things are uncertain, but yeah, do you know what? I feel that I can trust my bosses. I can trust the business. I might not know everything at the moment, but I feel safe and I can trust all of those things. And then when things don't go according to plan, instead of falling flat on my face, I go, okay, what was my biggest lesson there? What was my biggest lesson? And you think, right, okay, what am I going to do different to avoid that lesson? And there's always a lesson. There is always something in it, if you look for it. Or you can just blame something. There's always a lesson. But you have to be, okay, what did I learn from that? It might not be a lesson you wanted to learn, but there's a lesson in there. And then using those character strengths and the skills of helping people, so the curiosity, the honesty, the fairness, all of those things that we all have, and just bringing those into play. And the empathy is about the collaboration, understanding the people that are sitting around a table or in a room. They have needs. You have needs for food and movement and everything else. So we're almost finished. So that's all I'd like to say from a human side of things. Apart from, I was looking at all these different things. You've got B to B, B to C to B, C to C to B to C to D to D to 2 to T. Yeah? But all of these different things, what I like to think of is it's not just that. There's another one. And it's that, human to human. We have to keep that in sight. We have to keep that in sight for all the other AI to be working. Yes, it means things are changing. Yes, it means all of that's changing. But let's not lose sight of what this is as well. And I'll leave you with one final quote. People don't resist change, they resist being changed. Peter Senge said this. They don't resist change, they resist being changed. So how can we help people want to go through this change process? It's supporting them, it's investing time and energy and effort in them. Yeah? It's not just done on a few emails, say, like, this is what we're going to be doing now. Okay? So that is me. If you do want to choose your channel, please feel free. I don't know if they work, but they should do, because technologically superb. So from my point of view, I'd like to thank you for your attention. I'm going to keep that temperature check, and I'll take it to the next time I go to another and say, look, these people are actually very happy without having to put their hand up. So thank you very much indeed for your time. I believe I'll hand back or just say thank you and lunch.
Thank you very much. Give it up for Stephen, everybody.